Welcome, Wave families and athletes, back to another wonderful interview. You've got a familiar face on the screen with me today who has an incredibly unique story through recruiting and just through her journey through college athletics. You guys know Jeana is one of our great coaches at Wave, clearly one of the best dancers we have in the club as well. Lots of fire, and when you hear her story, you are going to have a newfound respect for the bounce back and the resilience that she has, not just as an athlete, but a human being. So I'm going to start off with this first question for Jeana. What was your first club experience?
So my first club experience was actually when I had my interview with Ed Machado and peppering with Matt Olson during my interview for Wave. I actually did not play club in high school. I was a multi-sport athlete, and my mom was a single mom. She was a teacher, and the closest club I grew up in Breckenridge, Colorado, up in the mountains. And the closest club to us was on a good day with good weather, was at least 2 hours away. So kind of far, and just we didn't have the means to do it. And, my mom would do anything for me, but we just couldn't make that work. So I did lots of sports. I was kind of late to the volleyball game, but also the volleyball game where I grew up was quite different than Southern California. To give you an example, I played lacrosse for 8 years, and majority of our lacrosse practices took place inside of our gym. So a little different than playing on a field, but yeah, never played club. First time with club was as a coach.
Wow, incredible. And I think, for all of our families and all our athletes, they're associating all of us with volleyball. And I think the assumption as well is like all of us started playing young, and, that's how we navigated through the recruiting process to find out where we would play and what the right fit was for us. So I think the families are going to be super interested in hearing how you found volleyball or how volleyball found you. So let's start with you going to school and what sport you were playing in college.
So kind of little backstory on how I sort of found my interest in volleyball was I was my best sport was actually lacrosse, and I was being recruited for lacrosse, but at the time it was mostly East Coast sports. So this was like 12, 13 years ago. And it was big on the East Coast, and I just kind of knew I didn't want to go to school on the East Coast. So then I turned my focus to basketball, and I was being recruited by a lot of schools for basketball, but mainly the school that I went to their camp was Air Force Academy. And the way that Air Force does their summer camps is you go for essentially a week, and you stay in the dorms, and you're there for like 5 days. So I was there for the basketball camp, and one of the volleyball representatives or someone said, "Hey, do you want to just stay for our camp as well?" And my mom goes, "Well, sure, like another week that you don't have to be home," sort of thing. Go ahead. So I went to the volleyball camp at Air Force, and I had played it before, but again, it wasn't just kind of small, like middle school stuff.
Sure.
And then I was like, "Hey, I like this. Like, this is fun. It's kind of cool. I'm kind of good at it." And then, yeah, that's kind of where it went. But I actually was supposed to play basketball in college. So I was recruited by Air Force, CU, Montana State, and then San Diego State were my top schools. I had decided to go to San Diego State. That was the plan. And then my senior game, my senior year, actually, my basketball team, we were 1-22. So we won one game. Yep. I was the only senior, so all of my friends that I had grown up playing basketball with, they all decided to stop playing. They went to other sports. I was the lone senior. We were 1-22, and it was my senior game. It was the fourth quarter. It was like 2-3 minutes left. I went up to block a shot. I came down, and as I came down, a girl hit my knee as I was falling, so my leg kind of went two different directions. And I thought I rolled my ankle, so coach calls a timeout. I said, "I'm not coming out. Like, no way, this is my last game." They tape up my ankle. I I go out, I play for like another 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds, and I'm backpedaling on defense, and I'm just crying. And the other coach of the other team stopped the game and was like, you have to get off the court, because I guess my leg was doing this like wobbly thing. So then we found out after, going to the ER that I had broken my fibula, which is non-weight bearing. So that's why, adrenaline and everything, it didn't hurt that much. So broke my fibula. So they throw me in a cast for what was supposed to be 8 weeks, turned into 12 weeks, a solid about 3 months. I'm in a cast up to my knee. And then, I'd been talking with the coaches, and they said, well, just see how it is, rehab. And this was like March. And then by the time I got the cast off, I was supposed to be going to high school graduation. I get the cast off. They do more tests, they do x-rays, MRIs, whatever it was. And they found out that I had just like shattered my ankle. Like they kind of missed it when they were so focused on the broken leg, they didn't really look at the ankle. And so my ankle, these ligaments were just messed up. And this was literally 2 weeks before high school graduation. So the coaches, said, why don't you take some time in rehab? And honestly, it's kind of a blur for me. I told my mom, I said, I am not going to graduation. Like, if I'm not sure what my future holds, like if I don't know where I'm going, for the fall semester, or if I'm going to take a break, I'm not about to go walk across the stage. So that's kind of what that led up to. Looking back on it now, especially as a coach, I have a lot more insight on it, but I think that it gives me a good perspective into what goes on in athletes' heads, because I went through that. In you, showing that they have so much interest in you, and then saying like, oh wait, maybe you should take a semester off. To me, that was like a stab in the heart. Like, I did not know where to go from that. So what ended up happening, I did go to graduation, but since we were already planning on, we had my mom, she sold the house. We're going to move out to California, we're going to San Diego. And I ended up finding Mesa Junior College. And I said, all right, I'll go to junior college, I'll rehab. And then, once my leg is better, I'll start playing basketball again. And I'll kind of, get back into it. And then I can go over to San Diego State, which turned out I never went back to San Diego State. Once I got out to San Diego, I found Mesa. I was playing basketball, met the volleyball coaches there, Kim, Sarah, and Dicho. And they said, hey, well, why don't you come play volleyball too? So I ended up, once I was healed and, all ready to go, I did both there. And then I just, after being at Mesa, which was great, I think there's kind of a stigma about junior colleges, and they're amazing for many different reasons, whether it's academics or whether it's, financial reasons, or if it's for, like me, where you needed somewhere to go, you had a little gap in your life. And then I ended up, transferring, and it was amazing. I found Point Loma Nazarene University. I contacted the coaches because I knew I wanted to stay in San Diego. Contacted the coaches, the volleyball coaches as well, John Scott, who is also a wave coach. And then the head coach at the time was Sarah Gustin. Mm-hmm. And John said, well, why don't you come practice with us? So I said, all right, what time? And they said 6 a.m. I said, oh. So I went to the 6 a.m. practice, and they just threw me in with the team. They said, all right, you're going to run through a practice. And I think that obviously this is, many years ago, so it's a little different. Not a lot of people get to do that now. Went in, practice with them. They were working on slides with the middles, and I was kind of like, volleyball was still very new to me. I had really only been playing for maybe 3 years, fully like actually understanding the game. And John said, hey, if you can do a layup, you can hit a slide. So I was like, all right. And now it's one of my favorite things to do, to hit and to teach. And I say that all the time, with younger athletes that come in, and I say, hey, have you ever done a layup? If you can do a layup, you can hit a slide. So same.
There you go.
So yeah, I transferred to Point Loma, was wonderful. I took a chance, doing all of this, and it absolutely changed my life. Transferred to Point Loma, ended up having a pretty significant knee injury my junior year. Um, and the doctor kind of told me, this is the point where you need to choose a sport. You can't continue to do both. So I had been playing basketball, I mean, all my life, since I can't even remember holding a basketball, in the back of my grandpa's yard. And I kind of just had this newfound love for volleyball. Like, I just had this drive for it and this new interest. And so I said, all right, I'm going to play volleyball, and I stopped playing basketball. So I chose volleyball. It was wonderful. I graduated my senior year. My only regret is, after graduating from Point Loma, not going back. I had an option to play my 5th year for my grad year and play basketball. And I didn't, because, my body was tired, and I kind of wanted to start going out in the world. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I was trying to get that moving. But now looking back, especially now after paying for grad school, if I could have, gotten a little help, that would have been great. But I do miss playing basketball and obviously other sports. But yeah, totally different journey, especially from what all of our athletes go through now. You rarely find even a dual sport athlete. It's very focused, and club is just huge.
Right. No, it's an incredibly unique story. And as I hear it build and build and build, because it seemed like it was one thing after the other, we think of, being faced with adversity, and it's like, I'm going to hang it up, I'm ready to quit. And, there's probably gaps in that story where you were feeling that way. I mean, you're an incredibly positive person, but I would argue that it wasn't just easy, through injury, junior college into university, more injury, trying a new sport. I mean, it seems like there were obstacles, roadblocks, and you just kept going. I think where I'm most interested in is how'd you pick yourself up, when it was bad, what was your outlet? How'd you get around it? How'd you get over it, to drive you forward into the next thing and just keep pursuing what you were clearly passionate about?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it wasn't easy. And even all these years later, looking back on every, let's call them a milestone, or, everything that's happened to get me here. I definitely think for me, family. So my mom, she was a huge support system, and she was, with me while all this is happening and just talking it out. And then I guess the way that it works in my head is, okay, well, this part of me is injured. Now, how can I get the rest of me stronger? Or maybe, all right, my left knee is hurt, so I'm going to focus more on my shoulders, or maybe my quad strength. So kind of what I would do when going through these injuries is, especially in college, you got to go to the athletic training room, you got to do your daily rehab. And while you're in there, you have the ability to work on other parts of you, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Because I do think I am very positive, and I would find myself, in these dark moments of just this, this sucks. It's not, and you watch all your teammates practicing, and you see all these things online. So I think I would make a plan for myself. And I remember with my knee, I forgot how to run. When I hurt my knee in college and after all my surgeries, I remember being out on the track with my trainer, my athletic trainer, and I forgot how to run.
Wow.
And he said it's going to be you just got to think of your gait. And I just remember feeling so unathletic and just feeling so, embarrassed because people were watching me. But I worked every day, and I remembered how to run, and I got there. But yeah, I think that's just, I picked one thing to get better at, and it kind of took my mind off of, my injury.
Sure.
And what
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an amazing story for our kids and our families, because seasons, careers, all that stuff, it's never perfect.
Yeah.
Whether it's injury, illness, or I'm not getting the playing time that I think I deserve or that I want. it's just so easy to go, well, then I've had enough. And I think it's just a really cool and inspirational story from you, because you prioritized what you needed to get done, and that kept you mentally strong to get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which is really mature, especially at that age when those are devastating injuries. You know, it could be the end of the world. So it's like I said, that's an awesome story. I mean, I have a newfound added respect for you, because it's just so opposite of what I think we believe the recruiting journey to be. So I'm so fired up that we got to do this, and I can't wait for our families to listen and react, and hopefully they can, you know, reach out to you with any questions that they have about it, or, you know, you can be a wonderful resource for these young athletes if they're going through stuff. You know, I think that's probably the most important thing through these times, is that we've got somebody to reach out to. And, you know, talking to a bunch of our athletes and now talking to you, it's like, okay, we've been through it. We've been through the mess before. So it becomes more relatable. So athletes, if you are out there and you need some help, if you're feeling down, Jeana knows how to make things pretty positive, that's for sure. So don't hesitate. Find her email. I'm sure most of you have her cell phone as well. But don't be afraid to reach out to coaches, to Jeana, to whoever you need to help you get out of those ruts that we all face. Jeana, I appreciate the time. Awesome story. And can't wait to be back in the gym and crank the music and see those dance moves once again. So you had to relearn how to run. We'll relearn how to dance too. So thanks for joining me today. Everybody, you hang in there. Have a wonderful day. Go Wave. We'll be back soon. We'll be back stronger. You take care, guys.